All right, let's say we get started. So let's do just that. Hi, everybody. My name is Jason Vallad, and I'm an instructional designer and master trainer here at TechSmith. And I'll be the one presenting and hosting today's webinar, a new series that we started called Learn One New Thing. And today is all about Snagit Presets. So the thought behind this webinar series is people love the long webinars, the hour-long ones, but when they ask questions about a specific tool or a process, we never have enough time to dive deep into it. So we use this opportunity to talk a little bit more about a particular part of the product. Today, it's all going to be about Snagit Presets. We're going to limit this to 30 minutes or less. So make sure that you get the information you need and you're able to get on with your day. So let's do a little housekeeping before we get started. The first thing we're going to talk about is today's agenda. So I'm going to talk to you about how to add a preset, how to edit a preset, how to capture with that preset. And then if you have a teammate or a group of people that need to make the same sort of capture and that are using Snagit alongside with you, you can actually share that preset right to them so that you can take the same kind of captures across your team. So that's really great to know. The number one question we get asked, is this webinar being recorded? Yep, this webinar is being recorded, and you will get a copy of it emailed to you in the same email that you use to register for your session. So it'll be in about 24 hours. So that means sometime around noonish tomorrow, Eastern time, you will get a copy of that recording. You can watch it as many times as you want, share it with whomever you want. If you think that's valuable information for other people, share it. No problem doing that whatsoever. So even though this is a shorter webinar, we do want to still try and answer as many questions of yours as we can. In fact, there's a Q&A response area down at the bottom of the Zoom webinar interface. I'm pleased to have a couple of TechSmithies with me. Robert, Sarah, and Carson are here to answer your questions to the best of their ability. They cannot promise to answer all of them, but that we will do our best. So if you want to get a question at least looked at, put it in the Q&A. The chat is open just for casual banter for parts of that conversation as well. If you're not sure if you have the newest version, you can always go to manage.techsmith.com. You can sign in with your TechSmith account and see what versions you are eligible for. So always look for that. You can check that out whenever you have time, as well as the ability during today's webinar to enable live transcription. We have that turned on under the closed caption button. So if you find that valuable, where it'll actually transcribe live as I'm talking, and it does a pretty good job, go ahead and reach out, click that button, and then you have the closed captions available on your screen as well. All right, let's go ahead and get into the main part of our content, which is presets inside of Snagit. So the idea behind presets is they used to be called, if you're a longtime Snagit user, which some of you said you've been using it for quite a while, they used to be called profiles. And this is similar, only they're easier to use and quicker to create. The presets are found right here in the capture window at the bottom. And there's a couple of different ways to initiate them, and I want to show you both ways. First and foremost, there is a drop-down menu here next to presets. It's got this little plus button that gives you the option to create a new preset from the current settings or a new preset in general. From the current settings means if you're in the capture window and you're in, let's say, an image capture, and you want it to be a region capture, you've already added a border effect. Let's see what this border effect is. A red border effect with an 8 point thickness to it. And you already want it being sent to Word. Perhaps you don't want it to be previewed in the editor, and you want it captured to your clipboard. If you want to repeat this particular capture over and over again, you can create a preset from it by using that drop-down menu and choosing New Preset from Current Settings. When I click on that, it opens up the preset drawer, which you can open and close by just clicking that preset button. And it creates a preset based on those parameters that you just had up at the top, the image capture type, region selection, the border, and so on and so forth. And it gives it the real generic name, in this case, image with effect to Word. That really doesn't help me out, so I always go in here and change it. I know we have a red border, so I'm going to call this red border to Word. That means it's going to share an image with a red border to Microsoft Word, which I have installed. It's not the Office 365 version. It's a desktop version. And I know it's not a video because Word doesn't support video, so it's automatically an image. I can do a couple of great things with this, and I'm going to show you all those in just a second. But first, I want to show you how to create a preset without using existing content up here. That would be hitting that plus button and choosing new preset instead. What that does is it opens up this window right here, this edit preset. It's kind of like a little creation menu that allows you to build out your preset right within the presets menu. So in this case, let's create, we'll create another image type. And this time instead of region, we're going to do a full screen capture. So it's going to capture the entirety of my screen. For an effect, I don't want to add a border this time. I actually want to add edges. So I'm going to click edges here and click on the gear icon. So the edges are where you can add those 3D effect or those torn edge effects right to your image. And it gives it kind of that professional polish without a lot of extra effort. So in this case, I'm going to choose the edges, and you can click on which edges you want utilized. And it gives you a little preview down here. So I'm going to use that torn edge effect, but I'm only going to do the torn edge on the bottom and on the right-hand side. And I'm not going to make it as grandiose as this. I'm going to maybe drop it down to a 3-point edge. And then underneath the styles, I could choose. Do I want it to be a torn effect, wave, saw, shark tooth? I think shark tooth is the way I'm going to go. And then when I click the gear, that effect is applied to what we're going to do next. And do I want to share it somewhere? Well, this time, instead of sharing it to, let's say, Word, I could send it to PowerPoint, which is a great use of presets, especially if you're capturing a series of images for a presentation. You can build a preset out that just sends it into into PowerPoint. For me, I'm actually going to share it to a file, and that file on the gear icon is just going to be to ask for a file name, and it's going to choose that I can choose the type of image that's being shared. In this case, I'm just going to share it as a JPEG, or excuse me, a PNG, which gives me the most flexibility. Those PNG files can go just about anywhere. And then I don't need to preview it in editor. Previewing it in editor would mean it would open it up in the regular Snagit editor where I could annotate it, right? I could add arrows and text and stuff like that. I don't need to do that for my use cases for presets because I'm already sharing it where I want it to go. The image is still available in my library, and I could still go and annotate it later. But for right now, to make this a quick process, I'm not going to have it open up in the editor. I tend to copy it to clipboard just because I kind of like to be able to Control V or paste it somewhere later on. I just like to have that as the most ready to use way for myself. And then I'm not worried about capturing the cursor or the time delay. And then when I have all the presets the way I want, as a matter of fact, you can send it to multiple, add multiple effects. If I want that torn edge effect, I can do that as well. At the bottom of this drop-down list, there's also a add another effect. So if I not only want it as a torn edge, but I want it to trim all the extra content around the outside. So if I take an oversized capture, it'll automatically trim it by choosing auto trim underneath the gear. So there's lots of little nuances in each one of these tools. We won't go through all of those, but I want you to know that they are available. When I have my preset ready to go, I click Save Preset. It creates that preset file right here in the presets dropdown, and it gives it that generic name, image with effects to file. Well, that still is not helping me. With this one, I'm going to call it Torn Edge to PC, because I know it's going to save it on my PC where I tell it to. Now you'll notice whenever I click on these presets, there's a little animation that goes up into the capture window, and some of these parameters change. In this case, preview and editor is still there. In this case, it's turned off and copied to clipboard is there. It's because of the parameters that I set forth. When I click on any of these presets, I can take a capture based on those preset parameters by clicking the capture button right now, because it transferred all that information up to the top. Or if I'm down in the presets menu and I click on the little red capture button on the left-hand side of the capture itself, I can initiate a capture from there. Even more powerfully, I can create a keyboard hotkey specific to that particular preset. This is really helpful if people are big-time keyboard shortcut users, or one of our support staff today, Robert, has one of those mice that has multiple buttons on the side where you can set up like a macro key where you can program it to do different things. He actually has a series of Snagit presets assigned to different buttons on his mouse, so he can quickly capture a video or quickly do a panoramic capture. All those capabilities are here by creating a hotkey for those particular capture types. Something I do want to show you though, and this is a big part of presets as you might not know about because you don't have the same needs all the time. There is a gear to the far right-hand side of each of these presets. So like this torn edge to PC, there is a gear icon that when I click it, I get a few options. I get an edit menu. So I can go into that preset that I just built and make some changes to it if I wanted to. In this case, I could click on it and go, you know what? I don't want it to automatically trim anymore. So I'm going to go to that drop-down menu and remove this effect. So I can edit that right there in the presets menu. I have the ability to rename it. So if I don't want it to be torn edge to PC, I can easily rename it from this menu. I have the ability to duplicate it. So if I want to create a preset and use that as a template and make subtle changes as we move down the recording process or the capture process, I have that ability as well. I can make those changes. If I want to get rid of it, if I'm no longer going to use this preset anymore, I can delete it and it's gone from my system. It no longer is there. It no longer will be part of my dropdown. And if I've assigned a keyboard shortcut to it, it will go away as well. Most powerfully, if I'm using Snagit and I have teammates or work friends that are using Snagit as well, and we're all needing to take the same style of capture. Maybe it's the same style of capture with the same on-brand color border. I can create that preset and I can choose to export it at this point. I can send that file, which is called a Snagit preset file. It's this tiny little bit of information, and I can drop it in a messaging service like a Slack or a Microsoft Teams. I can email it to people. And as long as they have a version of Snagit that supports presets, they double click on that, and then that preset gets added to their drop-down menu right there, ready to go. It's pretty awesome. I'm not going to lie. It's a pretty cool thing. So let's actually take a capture from one of these presets. I'm going to bring back up my presentation, which is the one that you were just watching. And I'm going to do this get answers to your questions. We're going to bring up the capture menu. And this time we're going to use the red border to Word. Now I do have Microsoft Word open. It's on my other screen here. I'll just bring it into view, and it is blank. It's just a blank Word document right now. So we'll put that back over here. And I'm going to do the red border to Word by clicking on the capture button here. It's going to initiate my crosshairs. I'm going to click and drag over this section of the presentation. As soon as I let go, it's already there. It gets sent right into Word. There is the capture I just took. It has all the parameters, which was put a red border around it, have it the thickness that I defined, and drop it in Word. It's pretty sweet that it happens that quickly. So maybe I'm building some documentation. Maybe I want to do another capture. I'm going to go to the agenda, pull the capture window back up because I didn't assign a hotkey to it, but I'm going to go here and just do a little capture of the agenda. Instantly captures it, sends it into that same Word doc. So there it is. So now I have the first capture I took inside of my Word document, which is sitting right here. And then the second one with the same parameters that we assigned, the border and everything, right into Word. It happens so quickly. Pretty sweet. Now, inside of each of these gears, of each of the effects and the share, there are so many parameters put in place. So let's create one for video. I'm going to open the video tab, and I'm going to do a new preset. On that new preset, let's get rid of this so it's nice and clear. I'm going to choose the video tab and see what options are available to us for this as well. The selection is your choice of either a region or a window. If it's just a video, I almost always do a region capture. And with the gear icon, I can choose to select the region at capture, which means when you start the capture, the crosshairs are going to show up, and you can click and drag over that portion. Or you can do a fixed region. So this is for people that might have something that's regularly occurring on their screen. Maybe in the upper right-hand corner, there's some statistics or something that pops up. They want to capture that area of the screen specifically. They can do that from here as well. For the share destination, man, there's nothing easier than sharing a video to Screencast. Screencast.com is part of TechSmith. It's super easy to do. It's free to do. I don't have to think about it. It just sends it up there. It gives me a link that I can share. So we're going to go ahead and share it to Screencast. We're also going to have the webcam recorded, and I have some options here with the little arrow here. I can say I want it to capture from my really good camera, which is the one that's turned on for today's webinar. I want it to be in the, let's go upper right-hand corner. And with Snagit, I have shapes available for my webcam. It doesn't have to be just that rectangular postage stamp. I actually am a big fan of this rounded square look. So we're going to capture it to the upper right-hand corner with a rounded square. I'm going to not worry about previewing in the editor. I'm not worrying about capturing my cursor. I do want it to capture my microphone. So there is a menu over here that lets me choose if I have multiple microphones available to me. So I want to make sure I'm picking my really good mic that I'm using for you fine folks here for the webinar. And then I can choose whether or not I want it to record system audio. That would be any sounds that would typically come from your computer itself. If you're recording a video about an error message and it has a tone that's associated with it, Snagit can capture that sound as well. For me, I'm not worried about that. I typically don't do a recording like that with Snagit, so I'm good to go, and I'm going to hit Save Preset. It adds it. Video to Screencast. Well, you'll notice the little capture button has changed from the camera icon to the video camera icon. So I don't personally need it to say video, but it would be nice to know top right rounded for me, spelled right. That'll let me know that I have a webcam that's going to be in the top right and it's going to be rounded. And I know what Screencast is, so I'm just going to call it SC for myself. Top right rounded to Screencast. And when I click on this preset, all of that material, all of that data transfers up to the top of the capture window. It changes, the region selection, the screen. So if I went from Torn Edge, you'll see all the things tag over. If I hit the video, everything switches over. So if I wanted to take a capture with this, let's give it a try. I'm going to stop my video for the webcam, and I'm going to pull up that same Word document. And we'll just capture a video around the Word document. So we'll hit the capture button. And I will grab just this part of the screen. Going to initialize right there. It's ready for me to go. The microphone's ready. The camera's already turned on with those rounded. I picked the rounded square, so it's ready. So I'll hit record. Hi, everybody. This is Jason. This is just a quick example of recording with a video preset inside of Snagit. I hope you found it useful. Thanks for watching. And then as soon as I hit stop, because that preset was designed to go to Screencast, I can just name it sample video, Snagit webinar. And when I hit share, it's going to send it to Screencast and deliver me a URL that I can easily share. In fact, there it is. The file has been uploaded to Screencast. I can hit get link, and just for fun, I'm going to put that same link right in the chat. So the video that I just created is now live in the chat for us to be able to use. And just for fun, we'll bring it up over here. And that video will have rendered, and there's the video that we just created. Hi, everybody. This is Jason. This is just a quick example of recording with a video preset inside of Snagit. I hope you found it useful. Thanks for watching. And with the new version of Screencast.com that you get as part of your TechSmith account, you can have a conversation around this. People could comment on it. You can have a complete conversation around the experience in the video. So Screencast is ours. It's TechSmith's. We build it. We maintain it. We just refreshed it completely last fall with the release of Snagit 2023. So you have that available to you. 25 videos is the cap currently without having to pay. So free version is 25 videos, and you have unlimited image captures that you could send images to Screencast. It is sweet. Okay. So I'll close this up, and I want to pull up the presentation today just to double check. There's not a lot with presets, but if you didn't know about them, it's pretty sweet to know what you could do right out of the box. So we talked about adding a preset. We talked about editing one, so if you can make changes to it. How to capture with a preset, either by clicking on it and having it transfer up to the top, clicking on the little capture button to the left, or assigning a keyboard shortcut specifically to that particular capture type, that preset, and how to share it by hitting the gear and choosing export. Because we still have some time, I want to see from the team if there's been any questions that have come in from the team so far. Someone was asking a great question. Joy asked, what's the difference between presets and quick styles? Well, I'm glad you asked that question, because today's was all about presets. This is for creating a capture style, a capture type that you're going to repeat. I tend to use presets when I'm making a presentation. So I create a preset that's already set to go to PowerPoint, and I just build a PowerPoint deck from my images without having to think about where I'm putting it in the library, grabbing it later, sending it over. Quick styles, which are inside the editor, which deal with when we're grabbing images like this. Quick styles are capture type, or not capture types, but annotation styles based on color and size and shape. We will actually be talking about quick styles and themes at our February 13th webinar. So if you're interested in that, I'll put the link for that one as well. We are going to be talking all about quick styles and creating your own color themes in Snagit if you want to match your color branding for your company or anything like that. So that's a great question. Glad you asked that one. Thank you for that. Looks like we have another question. So Robin asked, I have issues trying to use scrolling. Can you show a good preset for scrolling? So full transparency, scrolling right now is a toughie. Scrolling capture inside of Snagit is dependent on the browsers itself, and the browsers are constantly changing. The way I address scrolling, if I wanted to create a preset for scrolling, I would use, I'm talking to the camera, but I didn't turn it back on, so sorry. Instead of our scrolling capture, I tend to use something called Panoramic capture, which is also built into Snagit. So in this case, we'll go to an image capture, and instead of a full screen, I'm going to choose Panoramic. Panoramic capture is like if scrolling capture grew up and gave you much more control. So I'm going to do a panoramic capture. I'm going to turn off the effects, but I am going to share it to Screencast. So I'm creating a capture right here. I'm not going to preview an editor, and I'm going to make this a preset using these current settings. So this says image to Screencast, but that's not helping me. I want it to be, I call it panoramic to Screencast. So a panoramic capture looks like this. We'll take a capture of the panoramic capture right here. Brings up my crosshairs. I am going to click and drag over the central part of my screen. And then what I'm going to do is there's a little capture menu that looks like this. It has a start button. I'm going to click that start button, and the start button turns to a stop button. And what happens is you have this yellow border here. And as I scroll down the screen, the panoramic capture is capturing just what's in that screen for me. So when I hit stop, it's processing that capture, taking those 5 to 6 images per second that the Snagit was doing, and it's going to stitch them all together to make it look like one cohesive image. So what I will do is when the processing is completed, it gets shared up to, I think I said I sent it to Screencast, and we'll get a link right there from Screencast to be able to do that. You can panoramically capture vertically, horizontally, and both within the same image. It's really helpful. So we'll call this a pano sample being sent to Screencast. We'll grab that link right here that gets sent to me, and we'll preview it right here. So that panoramic capture, what's great about it is it only captures what I wanted. So on this web page, you'll notice there's a lot of space on the side. At the very bottom, there's menus that I really wasn't that interested in. With the panoramic capture, I captured exactly what I wanted and stopped the capture when it was done. So this is showing me in a state where, hey, I got to update this web page because we already finished. This is our 3rd webinar today. A lot of things happening in here. But the panoramic capture allows you to do a scrolling capture with much more control. It's not automated like scrolling was, but it also gives you control so you can override any of the scrolling issues that you would have before. Yeah, absolutely. Let's see if there's any other questions that come in because we have about 4 minutes left. Joy asks, can you save a preset as a theme? Preset as a theme. No, you can't do that, but you can export that preset and share it with someone else. So if I wanted you all to have this panoramic to Screencast as a preset, I can export that. It will put it where I want it to. In this case, we're going to put it on my desktop, and I'll call this Jason's Pano Capture. and it's going to save it as this Snagit preset file. So we're going to save this to my desktop, and I'm going to show you what this looks like. I'm going to delete this Panoramic Screencast one, the one I just exported and the one I just created. I'm going to delete it because I exported it, which I could share with other people. I'm going to pull up my desktop, find that Snagit preset file, double click it. And then what's going to happen is it's automatically, you see it just added it right back into my presets selection right here. I have that collection of presets. The one I just exported, I have that same one. So if I do that capture, it'll bring up the crosshairs and allow me to do that entire capture state just as we did it. So I could share that with you. You can create those. When it comes to themes, which we're going to talk about in a very not too distant future webinar, themes can also be shared just like presets can. I can build a colorway, a color theme, and send that to everybody that I work with so they don't have to reinvent the wheel. This is great with people that have colorways that they want to use that are based on company branding from the marketing department. Not everybody has access to their company's marketing department, but I'm going to show you some cool tricks that you can use with Snagit and let's say your company's website to grab those colors just the same. Let's see, is there any other questions, Carson, Robert, or Sarah, that have come in? Doesn't look like it. So, oh, well, we're getting a quick question from Jamie. Jamie's asking, what's the easiest way to capture a video if I need to switch between windows while capturing? So that's tricky. If you want to capture individual videos on those different windows, you'd have to do individual Snagit recordings or bring them into the recording area. So when I choose a video, I typically do a region capture where I click and drag over an area. If the videos don't perfectly fit in that section, it's going to look kind of discombobulated. So it might be a better option to record full screen and capture your videos that way. I'm not sure what kind of videos you're wanting to record, but be aware if you're recording them from, let's say, a YouTube or a Netflix, they will not capture correctly because those are proprietary sites. And typically they will block the audio from coming through or the video from coming through. So you won't be able to capture those. If it's videos that you own, it might be better to use a tool like our Camtasia tool where you can take those different videos and assemble them into a bigger project. All right. If there's no other questions that are coming in, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap up today's session. So let me pull up the last slide. At the very end, when you leave today's webinar, you are going to be presented with a 1-minute survey. It's going to take like 1 minute, 4 questions. We actually use those surveys to build out these different webinars. As a matter of fact, this Learn One New Thing series came directly from attendees of our other webinars asking if we could take a little bit more time to dive into a tool. In fact, if there's a tool or part of Snagit that you want to learn more about, let us know in that survey, and I might be building out even more Learn One New Things. I've only built out 4 so far, and there's lots that we could share inside of Snagit. So I want to say thank you so much for being a part. Oh, Jamie is asking a quick follow-up question. Yeah, hoping to use my webcam and switch to a browser in between. Oh, you totally can do that. Your webcam is captured as part of the experience, and you can move your webcam around while it's live, Jamie. You can go between, I can record this entire screen and go back and forth between all of these tabs. That's no problem whatsoever. Definitely give it a try, though. Experiment with your recording and see how it works out for you. So, perfect. All right. Thank you so much for being a part of today's session. Definitely fill out that survey if you get a chance, and we will hope to see you in a future webinar, including some of those Learn One New Things. Like I said, we've got 2 on the books coming up. One is all about the toolbar. I bet I'm going to show you some stuff you didn't know about the Snagit toolbar, and about quick styles and themes, which frankly is one of the most underrated, powerful parts of Snagit that's built in that you have to do very little to take advantage of. Excellent. Thanks for being here, and have a wonderful day.